What is up, soul family? Coming at you for another collective reading. If you've been looking for messages from your guides, angels, ancestors, deities, then I might have a message for you. I'm also doing readings for the $20 for the next week, so if you're interested, please feel free to let me know. You can do so by directly messaging me or by doing so at the link in the bio. But that being said, let's jump right in. Drop like half the deck. So I guess since some are falling out, I'll grab the ones that are like, grab this one, the Ace of Wands. Give me just a second. I'm going to grab like 3 more. All right. I don't want to see which ones are what. So I'm going to grab that, this, and then these 3. And then whatever, I'm going to cut the deck and whatever's on the bottom of it. And we'll see what comes out for the reading. All right, on the bottom of the deck, we have the, is that the 4 of Swords? All right, cool. Give me a second. I'm going to kind of organize this mess. I'm sorry, that was the 6 of Swords. I'm not as familiar with this deck yet. It's been a while since I've used it. And then we also had the King of Swords, the 5 of Cups, 7 of Swords, the Hermit card, the Moon. You gotta love the Moon, especially in this deck. I love the artwork for it. And then the 6 of Wands. So let me go ahead and kind of like, give me a sec. I'm going to kind of feel out like what we're trying to translate here, because I kind of like pick these all up at once. So, okay, cool. So I think it's an energy of somebody who might have been recently betrayed or hurt, or had somebody who might have backstabbed them or something along those lines more recently than not, especially at the 7 of Swords. It points towards like somebody who kind of maybe didn't do right by you. So I think like as a result, you're retreating into like hermit mode. It's like you had to kind of sit back and go into withdrawal for just a little bit and kind of contemplate like how you're going to move forward. And I think for a little while, it was like the energy of, so like the 5 of Cups, right? When the 5 of Cups pops out, a lot of times it points towards us kind of being stuck in an energy. It's like we're allowing the past to almost dictate what we're going to experience in the future. And then many times, if we're too focused on the past itself, what can sometimes then happen is because we're in that imaginative space, we can then sometimes draw in experiences that are reflective of that over and over and over again until we're fully healed from it, or until we're fully like out of that vibration or that frequency or that energy of whatever that is. That's why sometimes people will have the same experience. They'll experience the same X over and over and over again in different bodies, and they'll kind of have the same experience. It's kind of like when you're moving through, like our subconscious is very intricately wired, right? So whenever we go through something extremely traumatic, and especially if we haven't been able to fully move past that, if we're not somebody who's then figured out how to draw better boundaries, to have figured out how to feel better about the scenario, if we feel like we're still only ever going to attract that. And I say that because there are people who really think at some point, because of the amount of trauma they've gone through, that all women suck, or that all men suck, or that all men are going to cheat, or all women are going to cheat. So what's the point anyway? I might as well let him cheat so that, I can just be happy with him anyway. So sometimes we then, because we've had these traumas and we don't allow ourselves to get past that, it creates a subconscious, it creates like an energetic imprint within our subconscious, right? And then from there, we then tend to unconsciously attract in those experiences over and over and over again, because we don't think that it's going to be any different or it's going to be better. And there are so many people who I've seen say that I think all men cheat, so I might as well let him cheat. And I think that's very different from polyamory, where, you're just open to then, having those interactions where you're sharing your partner, or you guys are, you're exploring having different partners with consent versus just accepting and feeling like, okay, this is as good as this is going to get, so this is what I have to do in order to then have the person that I love. So then a couple things. With the King of Swords energy, sometimes it's a call to then start instilling and be a lot more active and firm with the boundaries that we have. And we don't necessarily have to be rude, or sometimes you gotta be. Sometimes you gotta be rude and let somebody know. But I think a lot more times when we're able to start enforcing those boundaries and we're allowing ourselves to be more direct with our communication, like what we want, our intentions, and then actually acting on those boundaries. Like once we draw a boundary, you have to keep that boundary up. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to leave you if you do this to me, and then they do this to you 7 times and you go back to them. That doesn't allow any change, anything better to come to you. And especially we tend to sometimes think that we're going to be stuck with one person. Not stuck, but many people tend to think that you have to be with one person, or there's no way out of this. There's no better. Like I might as well have to fight for this. You know what I mean? So the reason why reality will then give that to you is because that's your belief. That's what you're believing at that point. You're like, well, I can't do any better, so this is what I have to accept. So then you accept it, and that's what then gets perpetuated over and over and over again. Versus sometimes when we cut what we don't want off, and then we allow better to come in, even though it's not fun to let something go. If it's a toxic relationship or a connection, it does allow things to move forward in a better way. And sometimes we might then still encounter people who will then be reflective of those old patterns. You know, sometimes we might then just encounter somebody who's just a cheater in the future. It's not to say that that's you not doing anything wrong, but you just have to stay firm in those boundaries and keep on that, holding that intention, knowing that you can get the person that you want and that you don't have to draw or settle. You don't have to draw that person in and then settle for that person if you do then draw them in. Like if you draw in bad partner after bad partner after bad partner, while yes, you might want to figure out what beliefs you have that could potentially be drawing that in, sometimes it's just a matter of you just being being a very magnetized person or very magnetic person, I'm sorry, and just being able to draw a lot of people in. So sometimes it's a matter of just having to have those very firm boundaries to then keep those who are not of a match to you off. It's like, think about how many DMs Beyonce, Nicki Minaj, how much DMs any celebrity probably has on a daily basis. But they still have to have very firm boundaries because they understand like what is an energetic match for what they're looking for and then how to then conduct themselves from that perspective. And we are no different. We are humans walking the earth just like Beyonce, just like Solange, just like any other celebrity out there. So, yeah, sometimes it does happen where we tend to attract in adverse things, but it doesn't mean that we have to tolerate it, and it doesn't mean that that's the only thing that we're capable of attracting in. So then last but not least, we have the Six of Wands and then the Ace of Wands. So I think you are going to be successful in finding somebody who is a match for you. You're going to have that victory. You're going to have that ability to be glad and joyful with the partner that you choose. And I think you're going to have an experience that's going to kind of like reignite that passion and that fire in you. And sometimes you just got to go out and have fun. Sometimes if you've been in a rut, just go out, have a little bit of fun. You don't got to have anything too serious. But sometimes the Ace of Wands is also just the energy of somebody who is going to have that fire kind of put back into them. And maybe you're used to sometimes having to deal with people who are very egoic and see you as like a trophy or see you as something to maybe obtain or some prize to get. And they never actually see you for who you are. But that doesn't necessarily mean, again, that has to continue staying that way. And then on the bottom of the deck, we have the Six of Swords. So we're going to be moving out of this energy. You're not going to be stuck here. You don't have to believe just because something has happened however many times that that's not going to change. Things can change in the drop of a dime. And sometimes it's when we least expect it when things tend to shift in our favor. But either way, peace and blessings, and hope you guys have a great day.